Welcome everyone. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation. Today we're going to explore transport in plants, the lifeline of flora. We'll look at how plants move vital substances like water, nutrients, and food through their structures. So, stay with me as we uncover the fascinating systems that keep plants alive and thriving. Welcome to Slide 2. Here, we see an overview of the key chapters we'll be exploring today. We start with Chapter 5, which focuses on the differences between short and long-distance transport in plants. This is crucial because it helps us understand how nutrients and signals move efficiently within different parts of the plant. Next, we have Chapter 3, which dives into food transport through phloem translocation. This is how sugars and organic molecules are distributed from sources like leaves to other parts. Moving back to cellular fundamentals, Chapter 1 covers the basic transport processes at the cellular level, forming the foundation for everything else. We also have a chapter dedicated to key terminology. This will help us consolidate our understanding of the concepts as we go along. Then, Chapter 4 introduces the vascular tissues, xylem and phloem, which are the main highways for transport within the plant. Lastly, Chapter 2 explains water movement through the xylem system, highlighting how water ascends from roots to leaves. These chapters are interconnected, each building on the previous one, giving us a comprehensive picture of plant transport systems. This overview sets the stage for a detailed exploration of the fascinating ways plants move vital substances internally. Welcome to the introduction. On this slide, I want to set the stage for the entire presentation by explaining the key points thoroughly, but in a conversational way. I'll highlight the most important concepts so you can easily grasp the core ideas. This is also where I'll connect these points to the overall theme of our presentation, helping you see how everything fits together. So, let's dive in and start exploring the foundation of what we're about to discuss. Today, we're going to explore how plants efficiently transport water, minerals, and food throughout their structure. We'll look at the cellular and physiological processes that make life on land possible for these incredible organisms. This journey will help us understand the complex systems that keep plants alive and thriving. From the smallest shrubs to the tallest trees, every plant depends on a highly organized network to move essential resources where they are needed most. So, let's dive into the fascinating mechanisms behind transport in plants and see how these processes support their growth and survival. Let's take a closer look at Chapter 1, which focuses on cellular-level transport and its fundamentals. Here, we're diving into how cells move substances across their membranes, a crucial process for maintaining homeostasis. We'll explore the key mechanisms involved, such as passive and active transport, and understand how each plays a vital role in cell function. Remember, these transport processes are the foundation for many physiological functions, from nutrient uptake to waste removal. Connecting these concepts to the larger picture helps us appreciate how cells interact with their environment to keep the body working smoothly. So, as we go through this chapter, keep in mind how these basic transport mechanisms underpin all the complex activities happening within our bodies. At the core of plant transport are the mechanisms that govern movement at the cellular level. These processes are fundamental because they control how substances like nutrients, water, and ions move in and out of individual cells. Understanding these cellular transport mechanisms is essential because they set the foundation for the more complex, long-distance transport systems we'll explore later. Essentially, it's at this microscopic level that the journey of essential materials begins, and those initial steps are crucial for the overall health and functioning of the plant. So, when we think about how plants move substances across great distances, we can't forget that everything starts with these cellular processes. Now let's talk about active transport. This process moves substances against their concentration gradient, which means from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. It's like pushing molecules uphill, requiring an input of energy. Typically, this energy comes in the form of ATP, which powers the transport process. This mechanism is crucial when cells need to accumulate substances that are in low concentration outside or inside the cell, like ions or nutrients. Next, we have facilitated diffusion, which is quite similar to simple diffusion, but with an important difference. It involves transport proteins embedded in the cell membrane that assist hydrophilic substances, those that don't easily cross the lipid bilayer. Unlike active transport, facilitated diffusion doesn't require energy, and it allows these substances to cross the membrane down their concentration gradient. So, it's a kind of shortcut that helps certain molecules get where they need to go efficiently. Finally, let's remember that diffusion itself is the passive movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. This process doesn't need any energy from the cell and is fundamental for essential functions like gas exchange in the lungs or the movement of solutes over short distances within tissues. Together, these mechanisms, active transport, facilitated diffusion, and diffusion, are essential for maintaining cellular homeostasis and supporting the overall function of biological systems. Let's talk about a special type of diffusion called imbibition. This is when solid particles, known as colloids, absorb water and swell up. This process is really important for seed germination because as the seed absorbs water, it swells and breaks out of its dormancy, which kickstarts the growth process. Now, moving on to the concept of imbibition. It involves water moving across a selectively permeable membrane. Water tends to move from an area where there's higher water potential, meaning less solute, to an area with lower water potential, where there's more solute. This movement is essential because it helps maintain turgor pressure inside plant cells and keeps the plant hydrated overall. And that brings us to osmosis, which is closely related. Water is truly vital for plants. It's like their lifeblood. The way water moves through plant tissues is governed by these physical principles, osmosis and imbibition. Both processes are critical for water uptake and distribution within the plant, ensuring it stays healthy and functions properly. So, in summary, understanding these processes helps us see how plants efficiently manage water, which is key to their growth and survival. Now, let's explore Chapter 2, which focuses on water movement in plants, specifically through the xylem system. This is a crucial part of how plants stay healthy and grow. The xylem is essentially the plant's water transportation network. It moves water and dissolved minerals from the roots all the way up to the leaves. This movement is driven by a combination of processes, mainly transpiration, which is the evaporation of water from the leaf surfaces, and the cohesion and adhesion properties of water molecules. Cohesion keeps the water column intact, while adhesion helps water stick to the walls of the xylem vessels. Understanding this system helps us see how plants efficiently manage water intake and distribution, which is vital for photosynthesis and overall health. It also highlights the elegant ways plants adapt to their environment to ensure their survival. This connectivity between water movement and plant function is a perfect example of the intricate systems we're uncovering in plant biology. The xylem acts as the plant's primary water pipeline, transporting water and dissolved minerals from the roots to the furthest reaches of the leaves. This unidirectional flow is powered by a combination of forces. These forces include root pressure, capillary action, and most importantly, the process of transpiration in the leaves. As water evaporates from the leaf surfaces, it creates a negative pressure that pulls more water upward through the xylem vessels. This mechanism ensures that water and nutrients reach all parts of the plant efficiently, supporting healthy growth and photosynthesis. Understanding this flow helps us see how vital the xylem is in maintaining plant health and overall functioning. The journey begins right at the roots, which are the foundation of the plant's ability to absorb nutrients. Specifically, root hairs play a crucial role here. They have a large surface area, which is key because it allows them to efficiently take in water and minerals from the soil. The process of absorption happens mainly through two mechanisms, diffusion and mass flow. Diffusion is where water and minerals move from an area of higher concentration in the soil to a lower concentration inside the root hairs. Meanwhile, mass flow involves water and dissolved minerals being carried along with the flow of water moving into the roots. This movement ultimately draws water into the plant's vascular tissues, where it can be transported to other parts of the plant. So, understanding this initial step highlights how vital the root hairs are for the plant's overall health and growth. So, here we see how water can actually climb up narrow tubes, which is a pretty fascinating process. This ability is due to water's unique cohesive and adhesive properties working together within the xylem vessels. Essentially, water molecules stick to each other and also to the walls of these tiny tubes, allowing the water to move upward against gravity. This process is often called capillary action, and it's a key part of how plants transport water from roots to leaves. Now, another important concept is root pressure. This is a positive pressure that's generated when water continuously enters the root cells through osmosis. As water moves into the roots, it creates a push that helps propel water upward through the plant. Once water is absorbed by the roots, it travels up the plant through the xylem. Several forces come into play here to make that ascent happen. This upward movement, often called the ascent of sap, is driven by these combined forces: capillary action, root pressure, and also the cohesion tension mechanism that work together to ensure water reaches all parts of the plant. Understanding these processes highlights how plants are so effectively adapted to move water from the soil all the way up to their leaves, supporting photosynthesis and overall growth. As water transpires from the leaves, the continuous column of water is pulled upwards through the plant, much like when you sip through a straw. This process is driven by what we call the pulling power. Now, water molecules have a strong tendency to stick to each other, which is known as cohesion. This creates an unbroken column of water from the roots all the way to the leaves. But that's not all. Water also adheres to the walls of the xylem vessels, which are hydrophilic or water-loving. This adhesion helps prevent the water column from breaking under tension as it's pulled upward. The key driver of this movement is evaporation from the leaf surface, mainly through tiny pores called stomata. When water vapor escapes, it creates a negative pressure inside the leaf, effectively pulling more water up through the plant's xylem. This entire process is known as the transpiration pull, and it's the most significant force moving water in tall plants. It's beautifully explained by the cohesion tension theory, which highlights how water's unique properties and the plant's architecture work together. So, in essence, this transpiration pull is a mighty force that keeps water cycling from roots to leaves, supporting plant health and growth. Let's talk about pressure potential, or PSYPE. This refers to the physical pressure exerted on water. In plant cells, turgor pressure plays a positive role, helping maintain cell structure and rigidity. On the other hand, tension, like the pull caused by transpiration, acts negatively, pulling water out of the cells. Next is solute potential, or psi's. This reflects how dissolved solutes affect water potential. Pure water has a psi's of 0, meaning no solutes are present. When you add solutes, the psi's becomes negative, which reduces the overall water potential and influences water movement. Now, putting these together, water potential, or psio, measures how likely water is to move from one area to another. It considers osmosis, gravity, mechanical pressure, and even surface tension effects. Understanding water potential is key to grasping how water moves through plants. It represents the potential energy per unit volume of water, compared to pure water under standard conditions. And remember, water always moves from an area of higher water potential to one of lower water potential. This movement drives essential processes like nutrient transport and water uptake in plants. In this slide, we're diving into Chapter 3, focusing on food transport, specifically phloem translocation. This is a crucial process because it explains how the products of photosynthesis, mainly sugars like sucrose, are transported throughout the plant. It's fascinating to see how the plant ensures that these nutrients reach all parts, whether it's growing tissues, storage organs, or developing fruits. Key points to remember here are that phloem translocation is an active and highly regulated process. It involves the movement of sugars from source tissues, like leaves where photosynthesis occurs, to sink tissues such as roots or fruits. This flow is driven by pressure differences created by the loading and unloading of sugars, which creates a pressure gradient within the phloem vessels. Connecting this to the overall theme, understanding phloem translocation helps us appreciate how plants efficiently distribute their resources, which is vital for their growth and survival. It also opens up interesting discussions about how we can potentially influence or enhance crop yields by understanding these mechanisms better. While xylem is responsible for transporting water throughout the plant, the phloem system has a different but equally important role. It is dedicated to moving the synthesized food, mainly sugars from where they are produced, like the leaves, to other parts of the plant that need nourishment. This process, known as translocation, is essential because it ensures that all parts of the plant, whether they are growing or storing energy, receive the nutrients they need. Understanding how the phloem functions helps us see the complex and efficient ways plants distribute their resources to support growth and survival. This chapter on food transport really highlights how vital the phloem system is in maintaining the health and productivity of the plant. Now let's talk about how sugars move within the plant. Sugars, which are produced during photosynthesis, are made in the source, typically the leaves. From there, these sugars are loaded into the phloem, the plant's transportation system. Once inside the phloem, they are transported to various sinks. These are the parts of the plant that need energy or storage, like the roots, fruits, and growing tips. This movement from source to sink is crucial because it ensures that all parts of the plant receive the energy they need to grow, develop, and function properly. Essentially, it's how the plant distributes the sugars it makes, supporting its overall health and growth. So this hypothesis really helps us understand how phloem translocation works. When there's a high concentration of sugars at the source, like in the leaves, it creates a high osmotic pressure. This pressure draws water into the phloem from the surrounding cells. As water enters, it generates a hydrostatic pressure, which then pushes the sap along the phloem towards the sink, areas where the sugars are needed or stored, like roots or fruits. The key idea here is that the difference in sugar concentration creates a pressure gradient that drives the flow. This pressure flow hypothesis ties together the concepts of osmotic pressure and hydrostatic pressure to explain how plants efficiently transport sugars. It's an elegant system that highlights the importance of pressure differences in biological transport mechanisms. Unlike xylem, which primarily moves water in one direction, phloem transport is actually bidirectional. This means that food, or the sugars and nutrients produced in the leaves, can move in multiple directions, upwards toward growing parts, downwards toward roots, or even sideways depending on what different parts of the plant need at any given time. This flexibility is crucial because it allows the plant to efficiently distribute its energy and resources wherever they are most needed, supporting growth, storage, and overall health. So, in essence, the phloem's ability to move food in multiple directions really highlights how dynamic and adaptable plant transport systems are, which ties back to the overall theme of how plants optimize resource distribution for survival and growth. Today, we're diving into Chapter 4, which focuses on vascular tissues, xylem and phloem. These tissues are essential for the plant's transportation system. Xylem primarily moves water and minerals from the roots up to the leaves, acting like a plant's plumbing system. Phloem, on the other hand, transports sugars and other organic nutrients produced during photosynthesis from the leaves to other parts of the plant. Understanding how these two tissues work together highlights the incredible efficiency of plant systems. They not only support growth and development, but also tie into the overall theme of how plants adapt and thrive in their environments. So, let's explore these vital tissues and see how they keep plants alive and healthy. The plant's vascular system is made up of two specialized tissues, xylem and phloem. These tissues work together seamlessly to ensure that nutrients, water, and sugars are transported efficiently throughout the plant. Their structures are quite distinct, and each plays a vital role in supporting the plant's survival. The xylem primarily carries water and minerals from the roots up to the leaves, while the phloem distributes the sugars and organic compounds produced during photosynthesis to different parts of the plant. Understanding how these tissues function and cooperate is key to appreciating how plants grow, thrive, and adapt to their environment. This chapter focuses on these vascular tissues because they are fundamental to the plant's life processes and overall health. Now, let's take a closer look at the xylem and its vital role in plants. The xylem provides mechanical support to the plant, helping it maintain its structure and stand upright. Its role is primarily structural, meaning it helps keep the plant firm and stable. The flow within the xylem is unidirectional, mainly moving upwards from the roots to the leaves. This upward movement is essential for transporting water and dissolved minerals from the soil to other parts of the plant. The main components involved in this process include tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma, and xylem fibers. Together, these structures form a complex network that efficiently conducts water. Most importantly, the xylem's primary function is to transport water and dissolved minerals, which are crucial for photosynthesis and overall plant health. Understanding this transport system helps us appreciate how plants sustain themselves and grow. Let's talk about how nutrients are distributed throughout the plant. The phloem plays a crucial role here, as it is responsible for distributing energy and the building blocks needed for growth. It transports these organic solutes, like sugars and amino acids, which are produced during photosynthesis, from the source, such as the leaves, to various parts of the plant that need them, like growing roots or developing fruits. The components involved in this process include sieve tubes, which are the main conduits for the flow, and companion cells that support the sieve tubes, along with phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers that provide structural and metabolic support. An important point to remember is that this transport happens bidirectionally. That means nutrients can move both from the source to the sink, like from leaves to roots, and back if needed, depending on the plant's requirements. Overall, this system is vital because it ensures that every part of the plant receives the energy and materials necessary for growth, development, and survival, tying into the bigger picture of how plants sustain themselves. Now, let's move on to Chapter 5, which focuses on short versus long-distance transport. This is a crucial aspect because the distance over which we transport goods significantly influences the methods we choose and the associated costs. When dealing with short-distance transport, such as moving goods within a city or between nearby facilities, we often rely on modes like trucks or vans, which offer flexibility and quick turnaround times. These methods are typically more cost-effective for shorter distances and allow for just-in-time deliveries. On the other hand, long-distance transport, covering hundreds or thousands of miles, requires different strategies. Here, we often turn to rail, ships, or even air freight, depending on the nature of the goods and urgency. The key point is that long-distance transport involves higher costs and considerations like customs, regulations, and infrastructure. Understanding these differences helps us optimize logistics, reduce costs, and improve service levels. This chapter ties back to the overall theme of efficient supply chain management by highlighting how choosing the right transport method based on distance is vital for balancing cost, speed, and reliability. The scale of transport within a plant can vary tremendously. On one end, we have microscopic movements happening within individual cells, which are essential for cellular functions. On the other end, there's bulk flow that occurs across the entire organism, moving large quantities of water, nutrients, and sugars. Understanding these different scales is crucial because it helps us appreciate the complexity of plant physiology. The mechanisms involved in short-distance transport are often quite different from those used for long-distance movement. By grasping these distinctions, we can better understand how plants efficiently coordinate their internal processes and adapt to their environments. It really highlights how remarkable plant systems are, from tiny cellular exchanges to whole organism transport. Now, let's talk about long-distance transport in plants. This process involves moving substances over quite large distances, often across the entire plant. The main method here is bulk flow, which occurs through the vascular tissues, specifically the xylem and phloem. The xylem is responsible for transporting water and minerals from the roots up to the leaves, a process known as the ascent of sap. Meanwhile, the phloem translocates food, like sugars, from the leaves to other parts of the plant in a process called translocation. These mechanisms are crucial because they ensure that nutrients and water reach all parts of the plant, supporting growth and survival. Switching gears to short-distance transport, this happens either at the cellular level or over very small distances between neighboring cells. Here, the plant uses several mechanisms to move substances around, including diffusion, facilitated diffusion, active transport, osmosis, and even cytoplasmic streaming. These processes are essential for cell-to-cell communication and help distribute nutrients locally within tissues. Together, both long-distance and short-distance transport systems work seamlessly to keep the plant functioning efficiently and responding to its environment. Let's take a moment to go over some key terminology that will help us consolidate our understanding. These terms are fundamental to grasping the core concepts we've discussed so far. By familiarizing ourselves with this vocabulary, we can communicate more effectively and apply what we've learned more confidently. Remember, connecting these terms to the bigger picture is crucial, as it reinforces how each piece fits into the overall framework. So, as we review these key points, think about how they relate to the themes we've explored throughout the presentation. This way, you'll leave with a clearer, more integrated understanding of the material. Let's wrap up our presentation by revisiting the key concepts that underpin how plants transport water and nutrients. First, we have transpiration, which is the process where water moves through the plant and evaporates from aerial parts like leaves, stems, and flowers. This evaporation creates a pull that helps draw water up from the roots, essentially powering the water ascent within the plant. Next is plasmolysis, a process that occurs when plant cells lose water through osmosis, especially when placed in a hypertonic solution. In this state, the protoplasm shrinks away from the cell wall, which is a clear indicator of water loss and helps us understand how plants respond to their environment at the cellular level. These terms, along with the concepts we've explored today, form the fundamental bedrock of understanding how plants manage their internal transport systems. This ability to efficiently move water and nutrients allows plants to thrive across a wide range of environments. Now, moving on to water potential, which is the measure of the potential energy of water per unit volume compared to pure water under reference conditions. Water potential essentially dictates the direction in which water moves, flowing from areas of higher to lower potential energy. Finally, translocation refers to the bulk movement of organic substances, primarily sugars, through the plant's vascular tissues, especially the phloem. This process ensures that energy-rich compounds reach all parts of the plant, supporting growth and development. To conclude, understanding these key terms, transpiration, plasmolysis, water potential, and translocation, is vital. They form the foundation for grasping how plants transport water and nutrients efficiently. Mastering this vocabulary helps us better appreciate the complex biological processes that enable plants to survive and flourish in diverse environments.